Good evening, everybody. I'm back with another concert for you. I've just been getting everything set up. I switched my iPad and iPhone around again, and I think that has solved the audio issues that I've had for the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to get right down to the music. And I've got quite a variety of styles of music planned for you tonight. I'm going to try and take more requests as well than I have been lately. And as you can see, I've got a whole bunch of music sitting here on the piano. And I would like to start out this special Father's Day concert with a song that I ran across when I was getting ready for tonight's performance. It's one of those great old Tin Pan Alley songs from the early 1900s. In fact, the date on it is 1916. And, it didn't take much to entertain people in the early 1900s. And this is a sentimental song called Give a Little Credit to Your Dad. Why don't you say a word for poor old father? In fact, let me read you the lyrics because I think they are meaningful for today, even though they were written in 1916. You hear a song of mother dear, no matter where you go. They tell of all her noble deeds, and it's correct, I know. But when you speak of mother and her kind and loving ways, it strikes me there's one other who deserves a word of praise. Why don't you say a word for poor old father? I know that he'd do just as much for you. Since you first played with a rattle, he's helped you fight life's battle, and you've always found him tried and true. You'll miss him when he's gone, so treat him kindly and overlook what faults he might have had. Keep right on praising mother, but remember there's another, and give a little credit to your dad. Here it is. I thought I'd just start with that cute little sentimental song, and it's got a wonderful old-fashioned cover art on the music that goes with it. Well, let me know if you can all see and hear me okay tonight. Hopefully that will work better than it did last week. Just trying to get the cameras halfway aligned. Yeah, good enough. Well, later on in the program, of course, I'm going to play some of my grandfather and my dad's favorite songs. But I came up with a couple of other songs that fit the theme for the night, and I'll try and throw in some requests too. This is a classic. This is one of the Roaring Twenties songs written by the great Harry Woods, 1926, and it's called Poor Papa. He's got nothing at all. And it's actually quite funny. The lyrics were by the Broadway impresario Billy Rose. Mama's got shoes, mama's got clothes, mama's got these and mama's got those, but poor Papa, he ain't got nothing at all. Mama goes here and mama goes there. Mama goes out to every affair, but poor Papa, he waits out in the hall. Christmas comes and mama gets the most expensive frocks. Papa gets a necktie and a pair of 10-cent socks. Everyone cheers when mama appears. She's got diamonds stuck in her ears, but poor Papa, he's got nothing at all. And then the last chorus, which is the best part. Papa bought a limousine, the most expensive kind. Now he wears a chauffeur's suit and mama rides behind. Mama's got silk and satins beneath. She's got gold in all of her teeth. But poor Papa, he's got no teeth at all. There's poor Papa. Thank you, folks. Hold on a second. I have sheet music falling on the floor. Oh no. I really shouldn't be using these original copies when I do my concerts because they're old and fragile, but I think I said this on a previous concert, part of the problem is I have so many original pieces of sheet music. There's no more room in my house to store Xerox copies. It'd just be impossible. So I try to be very careful with them. And a friend of mine gave me a wonderful suggestion. I've been doing these virtual concerts for, well over a year now, and I often say that I do these for tips. But the truth is I do it for all of you. The tips are a wonderful bonus, and I appreciate it very much, but I still enjoy it. I really do. And on many levels. It's allowed me to connect to a broader audience around the world that doing in-person events just hasn't been able to do. No, Bob, I don't know who wants a bad little boy. I am planning to play a number of my grandfather's favorite songs, and I had two grandfathers that were very special to me, my mother's dad and also my stepfather's dad, who's great, thankfully still kicking. And I'm going to throw in a few of their favorite songs and end with my dad Scott's favorite songs towards the end of the program. But we're going to start with my grandfather Herman. I was partially raised by my mother's parents, who were both from Texas. And my grandfather Herman, who was in World War II, I loved him very much, and he died when I was 12. The special thing about that, for those of you that might not know, is 2 weeks, no more than 2 weeks after he suddenly passed of a heart attack at the age of 79, I met Johnny Maddox, and he became my surrogate grandfather. And of course, I thought about including Johnny tonight as well, but I've already done tribute concerts to him, so I'm going to do something different. My memories of Herman are not as strong as I would like, but I do remember that he loved this song. And this is not quite the first edition of it, actually. It's far from it, but this is an old copy from 1909. It's a beautiful ballad, a parlor song, and it's called When You and I Were Young Maggie. It's one of the oldest songs I know. It actually dates back originally to the 1860s, 1866. And it was one of the earliest popular song hits. I think one of the songwriters might have been from Canada, but it was, as I say, one of the earliest American pop song hits. And I love this edition of it because it has Will Oakland on the cover. And I love Will Oakland's records. He was a countertenor, I believe is the correct term for it, and a very famous recording artist during the acoustic era. He worked for Edison, had a beautiful voice, and he was well known for this song. The most amazing performance of the song was a piano roll by the great black pianist Blind Boone, but I'm not going to try and play it that way. In the early 1920s, the song was revived all over again, but this time under the title When You and I Were Young Maggie Blues. And you can see here on the sheet music pictures of some of the artists who recorded the song. So I'm going to play it for you now in honor of my grandfather Herman, who loved this song. And I always have too, ever since I discovered it. We're going to do When You and I Were Young Maggie, first like a ballad, and then we'll do it like a blues. Or more correctly, a Dixieland jazz tune. When I Were Young, Maggie. Thank you very much, folks. Oh boy, there's so many father songs that I could include tonight. I pulled out a few out of my sheet music collection here, and I'll do them as we go on through the night. But oh, I just got the nicest message from my mother on the Facebook stream. She says, "I love to watch your fingers. Granddaddy is so proud looking down on you." Oh my goodness, I might cry. Yeah, I hope you're right. Let me tell you a little bit more about who he was. He was born in 1925 in a very small town in central Texas, south of Abilene, called Novice, Texas. And he had 8 brothers and sisters who all grew up on this great big ranch in Texas. And they were born in, all except the youngest one, were born in a log cabin on the ranch in Novice. And years later, they found in the mortar of the cabin someone had written D. Crockett, 1836. And we think it may well have been the real Davy Crockett. He would have been in that part of Texas that year on his way to the Alamo. So I like to be able to claim that my grandfather was born in a cabin built by Davy Crockett. I don't have a whole lot of truth, but I mean proof. But anyway, he was an incredible man. He fought in World War II and liberated some of the prisoners at the Dachau concentration camp during World War II. I never heard him speak about that, of course. I only found out years later. And we have often wished that he had lived longer and died at 79. You know, by today's standards, that's not really that old. And I sure wish we'd had him around. But I do have many special memories of him. And he came from a fun Baptist family there in Novice, and so he loved hymns. And I thought I might try and play a couple of hymns for you that I associate with the memory of my grandfather. I see I just got a request for just a closer walk with thee from Ed Judd there on Facebook. I might do that for you. Let me start with one or two that I know my grandfather Herman in particular loved. So let's see, which one shall we do first? I'm not too confident I can do the old rugged cross without looking at the sheet music, so I'm going to stick with this one called When the Roll is Called Up Yonder. That's a song that I learned because he was familiar with it. And we have all kinds of funny stories about my grandfather growing up in Texas, and one of them is that when he was singing in the choir in the church as a little kid, he didn't know what the correct words to this song were. So he said, "The rollies called up yonder," and that's what he sang. When the rollies called up yonder. Here we go. you so much, everybody. When the Roll is Called Up Yonder, which I think dates all the way to the 1880s. And that's what you call making it up as you go along. Oh, thank you very much, everybody. Now let's see. I'm gonna try not to talk too much for the whole concert, but this is kind of fun for me to tell you about my multiple grandfathers. So I'm gonna keep right on going here, and Ed asked for Just a Closer Walk with Thee. Let me do that too, so that I have another hymn in honor of my grandfather who liked those very much. And I have an arrangement on this that has a lot of boogie woogie in it. It borrows a little bit from my friend Bob Seeley, and then I'll play another couple of songs for you, actually, that I've thought of that he would have loved. Anyway, for now, here's Just a Closer Walk with Thee. Thank you so much, everybody. And hi to my friend Bob Milne up there in Michigan. It's always a thrill for me when you tune in, I tell you. Yes. Well, being from Texas, of course, and of a certain generation, my grandfather loved country music too. And so I didn't learn much about that style of music until after he was already gone. But turns out that a few of his favorites are also favorites of mine, namely Merle Haggard and Charlie Pride. It's difficult to play that kind of music on the piano, really. When I get requests for country music, I tell people, you know, it's often better if you sing that kind of music, and I can't sing at all. But I thought I might try and play at least one or two songs that I know Merle Haggard recorded in honor of my grandfather. And Boy, Merle Haggard had a voice like no one else had ever lived. There's no doubt about that. I think I know a couple of songs that he recorded that are like 1920s and 30s standards, and one of them, I'll tell you right now, is a waltz that was written by Wayne King, a band leader who was known as the Waltz King, and it's called "The Waltz You Saved for Me." And of course, the reason Merle Haggard recorded that and would have known that song is because Bob Wills did too. And let's see, what else? What else do I know that? Well, there's another song that Merle Haggard sang on the album that he did with Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys, which was called "Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys for the Last Time." He sang a 1920s pop song called "Yearning Just for You." So I might try and play both of these songs for you right now. Yearning Just for You. Thank you, folks. It's just a couple of songs that I know Merle Haggard sang. Sure wish I could have met him before he died. Well, I have a little bit left to do here in honor of my grandfather Herman before I move on to somebody else. And it was right about the time he died, which is sad. He did get to hear me play the piano, of course, but only for the first year or two that I was playing. 2 years, I suppose, before he died. But actually, one of the last times I ever talked to him, I'm pretty sure this is an accurate memory and I didn't dream it up. I had just discovered Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys, which has become one of my very favorite bands. And I remember playing a recording off the computer of Take Me Back to Tulsa from my grandfather on the phone. It was just right before he died. Might have been the last time I talked to him. I can't remember. And so that song has always reminded me of him. And in fact, my grandparents went on their very first date to a Bob Wills dance in Abilene, Texas. And so, in honor of both of them, I'll just do a couple of the famous Bob Wills songs. I don't play Take Me Back to Tulsa very much because there's only about 8 measures to the whole song. Again, it's hard to do justice to some of these semi-country songs as a piano solo. It's not really country, it's western swing technically. And so I'll do Take Me Back to Tulsa, and right after that, I'll go ahead and do San Antonio Rose. Yeah, Marilyn, I knew that you and Bill were familiar with Yearning Just for You because you're two of the only people that's ever asked me to play that. I just switched over to watch Facebook here. Anyway, on with the Bob Wills. San Antonio Rose and Take Me Back to Tulsa, two of probably the most classic Bob Wills tunes. Ruth Ann, you're asking about the Facebook stream. It looks like everything's working tonight. I just flipped my iPad and my iPhone, one I use for Facebook and one I use for YouTube. And so that seems to have solved the problem for the moment. And greetings to my friends Kelly and Ted in Florida. So nice to have you tuning in lately. Sure appreciate it. Ruth Ann, you should be able to find the Facebook stream fine. Looks like I've got over 100 people watching if you count both streams. I'm glad you all seem to be enjoying these little personal anecdotes with these songs tonight. I honestly, one of the concerts that I've done, the virtual concerts that I'm most proud of, might be the one where I did all these songs and talked about the memories of my grandmother. It does add something, I think. The personal stories, and of course the history behind the music too. I thought of something else to play for you, which in a way is related to my grandfather. He died when I was 12. We really wish that he had lived a bit longer. But I did know most of his incredible big family from Texas. They were so much fun, and they had the wildest names: Bunk and Cotton, Hayes and Hazel, and Weldon Archie. My grandfather was Herman D. My great-grandfather was Oscar Lex. And let's see, did I mention Bunk and Cott? Yeah, I don't think that was their real names. I think one of them was Doffa Ogier. My Uncle Weldon was the last one to go, I believe. My middle name is Garland. I'm named after my great uncle Garland, who died in a car wreck shortly before I was born. But when after my grandfather had died, I remember asking my great uncle Weldon, if there were any songs that he'd like me to learn and to play just for him, any requests, so to speak. And the only song he came up with was, at that time, I don't know, I must have been 13 years old. I was not familiar with the song. It's quite a standard called Mac the Knife. And the song was originally written way back in 1928 by Kurt Weill for a show called the Threepenny Opera, but then it was revived in the 1950s by Louis Armstrong and Bobby Darin. So I play it the way that Johnny Maddox used to do it, with a medley of other famous pop songs from the 1950s. So just thinking of my great uncle Weldon right now, who was a father too and a grandfather, I thought I'd play this medley for you, and it includes Music, 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 Mr. Sandman, and of course, Mac the Knife. Music, music, music. Thank you very much, folks. Johnny Maddox recorded a medley almost identical to that on one of his dot records in the 50s. Oh, that's an interesting comment, Bob. Bob's talking about his days as a saloon piano player, and yeah, you know, I'm still doing it. The Diamond Bell, it's a little different than the Rathskeller was, I suppose. The piano's up on a little stage, and people applaud for me. I'm lucky, but I still get requests for these kind of songs, and I still love it. Last night was such a blast. Almost everybody I knew in town was there. Some of my friends from the railroad, and let's see who else. Oh, there were some guys from Oklahoma that were just wild, but when I played Oklahoma, they loved it. Anyway, if anybody has requests, please start sending them in to me, because I'm going to need to fill some time here before I get on to my next grandfather. I'm gonna check both Facebook and YouTube right now. If you have some requests, it has to be something I kind of know by heart. I'm going to check right now. Go ahead and start sending them in. I can't promise I'll get them all. You know, there's usually too many to get it one time. But oh, that would have been a great one. I should have got the sheet music out. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Mother. That's a 20s song. Oh, Nathan, thank you. Aggravating Papa. That is perfect. I'll play it for you. In fact, I'll do two songs for you by J. Russell Robinson, who's one of my very favorite songwriters from the early 20s. Aggravating Papa and also Beale Street Mama. Pretty sure I can play both. And so thanks for the request, Nathan. Aggravating Papa. Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, hey there. This is to Sharon Carter. I saw your request for Ragtime Annie, and believe it or not, I'm going to fit that in for you a little bit later. And oh, Marilyn, how funny that you asked about the Prisoner's song. That is one of my grandfather Dick's favorite songs, so I'm going to play that a little later for you. Yep, you can count on it. And I'm so glad that Nathan thought of Aggravating Papa. What a funny one to do for today. Yeah, I guess our fathers aggravate us sometimes, but today we're supposed to celebrate them. And so my friend Dwayne from Memphis mentioned a song to me literally about an hour or two ago. I saw his message and I thought, you know what, I'm going to dig it out. This was Gene Autry's first big hit called That Silver-Haired Daddy of Mine, 1932, I believe. Yep. This is one of those cheap Depression-era music publishers, M.M. Cole Publishing Company. Well, I don't really know the song very well, but it's simple enough I can sight read it for you. So here's a quick rendition of a sentimental song from the height of the Depression, That Silver-Haired Daddy of Mine. Thank you, everybody, and that's just for you, Dwayne. Um, yeah, Ken just mentioned that is very much like Red River Valley. I noticed it when I was sight reading it earlier today. It's just a little bit of the beginning of the melody, but that's really the song that made Gene Autry a star as a songwriter. So that's that silver-haired daddy of mine. Well, oh my goodness! So you've never heard it? No, no kidding. Yeah. Well, glad I could play it for you. Oh, and I was going to say hello to Regina Whitcomb. I hope you're still listening. I send you all my love too. We sure miss you. Um, well, it is now time to move on to my only living grandfather I have. We're very lucky to have him, and his name is Dick King. This is my stepfather's dad. Lives up in Midland, Michigan. And I have a couple of songs that I associate with Dick, and so I thought I'd play them for him now. And the first one I'm going to do is in a shanty in an old shanty town. In fact, I had never heard of this song, I suppose, when Dick first mentioned it to me. I remember he came out here to Durango the first summer I played with Johnny Maddox and asked Johnny to play this. I was only 14 years old, and was a big hit when it came out, the same year as the last song, 1932, and it was written in part by the great songwriter Little Jack Little. And if you're not familiar with him, he was a wonderful pianist and recording artist, and I didn't know for years, until more recently, that he was the father of Big Tiny Little, the piano player who was on the Lawrence Welk Show. And so Little Jack Little was wonderful, and I'm going to play here now for Dick in a shanty in old shanty town, very much how they would have done it in those days, both as a waltz and a foxtrot. And I'm even going to play the verse for you. I've never played the verse. you very much, folks. Dick, I hope you got to hear that. Well, now another song that I associate with my grandfather, Dick. He's barely old enough to remember this one, but I've already mentioned it. The Prisoner's Song. And this is a song that was written in 1924 by one of the very earliest pioneers of country music, Vernon Dalhart. Vernon Dalhart was actually a trained opera singer, but he recorded a lot of folk songs and sentimental songs and ballads, which are considered among the very first country records. And I was just reading today, I didn't know this, he actually composed this song himself, but he did it under a fake name. And the record collector, Joe Bizard, told me that he thinks this is the first record that ever sold over 1 million copies. He said it must have sold multiple millions before Gene Austin's My Blue Heaven recording. And it's very sad, simple little melody, kind of short. And I'm going to do a similar arrangement to what I did with the last song, where I play it as both a waltz and a foxtrot. It was not written as a waltz, but I noticed that Johnny used to play it that way, and it sounds good that way. So I'm going to do both. So another one for Dick, who's hopefully listening right now. This is The Prisoner's Song. He told me that he could remember this from when he was a little kid. It was such a hit, I'm sure, that even in the 30s, when Dick was a little kid, that people still would have known it. The Prisoner's Song. Something like that. That's The Prisoner's Song. Oh, that could be the correct story. Dalhart's cousin discovered the song while he was in prison. It does kind of sound like a folk song, but I was reading today that Vernon Dalhart owned the copyright on the song as a composer anyway. Let's see. Oh boy. Okay. got a showy one coming up next. And I'm lucky that my stepfather's parents, Dick and Lucille, have been able to come to many of my performances over the years. You know, I was born in Michigan, where they live, and the first ragtime festival where I ever played was Bob Milne's Festival in Frankenmuth, Michigan. And so on the rare occasions I still get to see them, I've gotten to play for them there in Frankenmuth, and a number of other concerts over the years. They've been out here to, I think they've only been out here to Durango twice. But uh, as time has gone on, one of Dick's favorite songs that he loves to ask me to play is one of the songs that I played when I was at Carnegie Hall. And it's a popular ragtime song from 1910 entitled King Chanticleer. So here's my full showy arrangement of King Chanticleer, written in 1910 by music by Nat Eyre, who also wrote If You Were the Only Girl in the World, and a number of famous songs. Anyhow, here we go. There you go, Dick. That's just for you. King Chanticleer. I thought about saving that for a finale for tonight's concert, but I've got another one that'll work just as well. Oh, interesting. Somebody asked if that was Egyptian Ella. No, that was King Chanticleer. The melodies are very similar. Well, I could use a couple more requests. Maybe a slow one or blues or something after that would be good. I know Amy and Carl, I promised you Deep Henderson, so I'll do that here in a second. But if I could come up with maybe one more request here for the night, that would be great. Something that I already know. I've got so much sheet music on the piano, it's going to take me an hour to put it away. No, unfortunately, I don't know Weeping Willow. I've never played that, the Joplin piece. Well, what else would we like? Anybody? I know there's probably a lag before the video reaches you so that you can type in a request, so I'm just going to wait a second here. Um, maybe I will go ahead and do Deep Henderson, unless anybody has a request. Oh, that's a good idea. Daddy, won't you please come home? I'm afraid I'd have to see the sheet music to play that. Actually, Amy, Corsica might not be such a bad idea. I could use a slow one, and I'll go ahead and play it for you now in honor of Johnny, who was very much like my grandfather to me. I'm going to go ahead and play Corsica, which is a rag by Joe Jordan. Oh, I played Mississippi Rag last week, and Georgia Grind, I could do that too. Gustavo, just wait a minute. We'll see how much time I've got. For now, here's Joe Jordan's beautiful Corsica, a rag which was never published, but I learned it directly from Johnny. Thank you very much, folks. That's Corsica, that French rag, and another song from 1914 called At the Ball, That's All. That's the way Johnny used to play it. Carl and Amy, I'm flattered that you're such a fan of that piece, and it's funny considering you never knew Johnny, but it certainly makes me think of him too. In fact, I think I might ought to move on to your other request here, which was Deep Henderson. No, let me do Georgia Grind for Gustavo. I'm going to leave the theme just for a moment here and play a wonderful rag. This was written in 1915 by Ford Dabney, who was one of the great black songwriters in New York City. And I don't know if I played this on one of my broadcasts yet, but I started playing it again just the last week or two. So let me do it for you now. The Georgia Grind. The Georgia Grind. Thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, it's a great tune. So glad you asked me for that. And now I'll go ahead and throw in Deep Henderson too. I'm pretty proud of my arrangement of this, to be honest with you. This is one of the greatest of all the 1920s hot jazz tunes, and it was written by Fred Rose, who was a very prolific and interesting songwriter. I've thought about doing a whole tribute to the music of Fred Rose at some point. It was a 1920s pop song and jazz songwriter who even wrote two novelty piano solos, moved to Nashville in 1942, and started a company called the Acuff Rose Music Publishing Company with Roy Acuff. In 1942 was the first of the major Nashville music firms, and he became one of the most important country songwriters. Fred Rose, that is. He wrote Roly Poly for Bob Wills, and he wrote half of Hank Williams' big hits. Also Gene Autry. Anyway, here's one of Fred Rose's classic numbers, which I do more like the dance band arrangement. And this is exactly the way I did it, pretty much exactly the way I did it for Domingo Mancuello's new Jazzipation piano roll label. Here's Deep Henderson. Yes, and that's a very 1920s style off-key ending. Deep Henderson. Um, Carl is reminding folks, yes, I do accept tips, not required at all. I do really appreciate it, though. There's both PayPal and Venmo information in the postings on Facebook and YouTube if you want to do that. Well, now I want to move on. I've covered ragtime, I've covered jazz, and I'm going to cover blues tonight. We're going to talk about my stepfather Scott, who I've known since I was 4 years old or thereabouts. And he's one of those men who doesn't talk much, you know. He's quiet about his feelings and so forth. But I managed to come up with about 4 of his favorite songs. I had to call him and beg him to tell me what they were. I knew a couple of them, and this one I knew. I'm lucky that he very much enjoys listening to all the stuff I play, and but this one is one of his pet favorites, and it's another one that I learned from Johnny Maddox. Big surprise there. Originally written in 1914 by W.C. Handy, called the Yellow Dog Rag, and the title was later changed to the Yellow Dog Blues. And in the early days, blues were more up-tempo, like ragtime, and so I'm going to do the Yellow Dog Blues for you, and with it, the song on which Handy based the melody. It's written by Shelton Brooks, called I Wonder Where My Easy Rider's Gone. I'll play them both for you. Here's the Yellow Dog Blues. Yellow Dog Blues, or the Yellow Dog Rag as it was originally called. The song was written about two railroad lines that crossed at Morehead, Mississippi. The Yazoo Delta Line, which was known as the Yellow Dog, and the Southern Railroad crossed it at Morehead, Mississippi. And so in the lyrics, Handy said, your easy rider's gone where the Southern crossed the Yellow Dog. That song really does have quite a drive to it. It's almost like a little bit of early boogie. Maybe that's why Scott likes it so much. Well, I had a request prior to tonight's concert from Sharon Carter for a song called Ragtime Annie. And so I'm going to actually do that for you, Sharon. But the way I do it is the way I learned it from Johnny Maddox. And he made a record in the early 1950s called Friday Night Stomp. And it's really his arrangement of two different folk songs, the Stones' Rag and Ragtime Annie. So that's how I'm going to play it for you. Even Bob Wills recorded the same theme as the Lone Star Rag. Scott told me he likes this too. It's one of the first pieces I learned from Johnny. And so here now for both Sharon and my dad Scott is essentially by Johnny Maddox, Friday Night Stomp. There we go with the Friday Night Stomp for Sunday night. Something like that. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And I've got a few more. Well, another song which I used to have to play this more often. I don't get many requests for this anymore. Scott mentioned this as one of his favorites, and he loves animals. I know that, so it makes sense. This is one of the honky-tonk piano hits from the 1960s. Probably one of the last ones, actually. 1962. It was written by a man from Denmark, believe it or not, who went under the name of Bent Fabric. Now, why anybody would call themselves Bent Fabric, I don't know. That was his nom de plume as a recording artist, and this was his one giant hit called Alley Cat. Here we go. Whoa. Wrong song. Alley Cat. Thank you very much, folks. I'm so glad that Scott happened to think of that for tonight. And well, it's getting to be that time of evening on Sunday night where I get ready to play the grand finale. And I've been saving this one, even practiced it at the Diamond Bell this week. And it's one of Scott's favorites. I played it at, I believe it was my junior piano recital in college. And that's because you could put it under the title of 20th century classical music, or describe it as that style, I mean. But it was written by this fabulous Cuban concert pianist named Ernesto Lecuona. And I listen to his recordings quite often. I should learn some more of his music. I really should. It's obviously influenced by American popular music and jazz, but still different. It has the Latin rhythms to it, and so forth. And so here from 1927 is Lecuona's big hit Malagueña, and this is for my stepfather Scott. Malagueña. Thank you very much, everybody. When people ask, which is not often enough, I often try to give a lot of credit to my dad, Scott, because he paid for every piano lesson I ever had. Now, why he wanted to do that, I have no idea. But I'm very grateful. And thanks to all of you so much for tuning in tonight. And I hope I'll see you again here, both on Facebook and YouTube next week. I will keep you posted and come up with another theme for a concert. And thanks especially to those of you who are sending in the tips. Not required, but I sure do appreciate it. And good night for now, folks.